Hello, friends. As we record this intro, Los Angeles is under unprecedented siege of wildfires. Ron and I decided to republish this critically important episode on the dangers of wildfires, including what you can do to protect yourself right now. Many people are now without homes, cars, and belongings, while local schools and businesses have been burned to the ground. Most affected people are just trying to survive with, in many cases, just the shirts on their backs. We will include a list of helpful resources in the show notes at healthyhomehacks.com, including a wildfire checklist, help for animals, donation centers, and more. As you'll hear in this episode, most deaths occur from the wildfire smoke, not the fire itself, and this smoke can travel thousands of miles. Glory, our guest, shares a story of smoke from a recent fire traveling 5,000 miles. So keeping your air clean, even if you don't reside in Southern California, is essential. Using the right certified masks and air purifiers is also key. We'll include links to these resources as well as discounts we are able to offer. So whether you're in the LA area or know someone who is, please know we are praying for everyone, animals included. There's so much we can all do to assist, whether it's donating your time, your efforts, supplies, or even offering your prayers. It all matters. Please share this episode with anyone and everyone. Lives depend on it. Please stay safe and healthy, everyone. Together, we will rise.
How would you like to improve your health and keep your family safe? You're listening to the Healthy Home Hacks podcast, where we firmly believe enjoying optimal health shouldn't be a luxury. Healthy Home Authorities and husband and wife team Ron and Lisa will help you create a home environment that will level up your health. It's time to hear from the experts. Listen in on honest conversations and gain the best tips and advice. If you're ready to dive in and improve your well-being and increase your energy, you're in the right place. All right, here are your hosts, biobiologists, authors, media darlings, vicarious vegans, and avocado aficionados, Ron and Lisa Barris.
Friends, it's time to take control of your health, breathe better, and sleep more soundly. This episode of Healthy Home Hacks is brought to you by IQ Air, first in air quality, a top air quality technology company for over 60 years. IQ Air is the maker of award-winning medical-grade air filtration solutions that are Swiss-made. It's the air purifier Ron and I sleep with every night. And they just launched their new Health Pro Plus XE air purifier. This Mac Daddy boasts a fan that's 3 times more energy efficient than previous models. Plus, it's got intelligent sensors that measure indoor pollution levels and activate and adjust based on real-time air quality. It's got smart app integration and, of course, a medical-grade air filtration with a hyper-HEPA technology proven to capture 99.5% of particles down to 0.003 microns. Guys, that means powerful protection from allergens, smoke, and even bacteria and viruses that you'd otherwise be breathing in. Visit them at iqair.com. Then click on air purifiers in the top taskbar to find the ideal solution for you and your family. Happy breathing.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. And guess what, friends? It's wildfire season. We talk a lot about indoor air quality on this show, but we've never discussed the health dangers of wildfires. This year, Texas has already experienced its largest fire in recorded history, and recent blazes also occurred in Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Maryland. In the first 3 months of 2024, over 2,600 square miles have been charred in the United States.
Think you don't live in an area that's affected? Think again. Smoke can travel for miles beyond its source. In 2020, smoke from wildfires in the western U.S. drifted for almost 5,000 miles, eventually being detected as far away as Europe.
And that's a huge concern, considering the primary cause of death from wildfires is smoke inhalation. 50 to 80% of fire deaths are from smoke inhalation. Makes sense when you consider the fact that wildfire smoke is a mixture of thousands of individual compounds.
Someone who is with us today to shed light on this extremely important topic is wife, mom, tree hugger, sports enthusiast, as we talked at the top of before the show started, ex-pro athlete and CEO of IQ Air North America. Glory Dolphin-Hamas is an expert in environmental control, a certified indoor environmentalist, and a licensed HVAC contractor. Glory began her tenure with IQ Air as one of the youngest CEOs in North America. She oversaw the launches of IQ Air's Health Pro series and the Air Visual platform, allowing air quality data to be shared around the world.
She also created the Clean Air for All, which led to the IQ Air Foundation, a nonprofit focused on providing clean air for kids in schools. Welcome to the show, Glory.
Yes, you guys are so awesome. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I think it's all just going to go downhill from here.
Oh, no, it's going uphill. You know, it was fun chatting with you before the podcast about just your athletic career and running 400-meter hurdles. And oh my gosh, you're just a champion, Glory.
Yeah, and she's got a walking death behind her, guys. So don't let her humbleness.
I do go hard on the walking desk, so yeah.
I need one of those. That's hardcore. I'm very impressed with anyone who uses one of those because I'm like, isn't it like patting your head and rubbing your stomach a little?
It is. You can really only do it for certain things, like don't try to write emails while you're doing it, right?
They'll be a little bouncy. Well, this is a really awesome topic that we have not covered on Healthy Home Hacks before, the dangers of wildfires. And, we talk about indoor air quality inside the home, which obviously this is going to affect too, but not so much about the outdoor pollution. So, Glory, how do wildfires impact people?
They impact people in a major way. Of course, the concentration of pollutants in wildfires is very high. So these are very highly sensitive times where we need to take extra precaution because the concentration levels in terms of pollution is very high. I mean, we've all saw last year when the wildfires hit New York City, how you could barely see in front of you.
Right.
So that happens quite a bit when you're next to a wildfire. If you're in terms of being upwind of a wildfire, you can have that happen for a couple hours here and there. And it's those time periods where we do need to take the extra precaution to actually reduce our risk, to reduce the health impact.
Right.
That's with all the orange smoke in New York City, right? It looked almost like a horror movie. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, how long did it last? Was it for like a day and a half or something weird like that?
It lasted about 9 hours.
Okay.
And we were actually able to break the story just because we had the data on our data platform that New York City was at that time the most polluted major city in the world.
In the world?
Wow.
Whoa.
In the world.
Wow.
At that time. And it was for about a 4-hour period that it was.
And it's so congested there. It's like, where can you go? Right. And a lot of people, they don't have HVAC, a lot of people there. So they rely on opening their windows, right?
Yeah. A lot of older buildings in that area. But one thing that someone actually talked to me about, and they said they found it particularly unfair, that level of pollution occurred in New York City, not because of anything that was happening in New York City. It was happening in Canada. So the wildfires actually came over from Canada through the winds that just brought it there. So it traveled a long way. But also we see for other different issues, industrial issues like in East Palestine, just the plume that was detected in East Palestine, it spread over 14 states.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Just from that one particular incident. So that just goes to show you how much we're interdependent on one another, and we just share this environmental envelope all together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is wildfire season typically in the hot months, summer? Or I've also read that now it's becoming like almost a 6-month season.
Right.
And or longer.
Used to be a 2 to 3 month season. So it's been substantially longer. And unfortunately, what's going on with regards to Canada. So Canada is a larger geographical area than the United States. So it has more miles, more square miles than the United States does, but it actually only has 1/10 of the population. So what does that mean? That there's a lot of land, there's a lot of forestry,
Yeah.
and because of climate change and because of the earth just warming, it's created a hotbed essentially for wildfires. And that's what we saw last year. We saw that the wildfires in Canada got to an area that was essentially non-inhabited and for
Nobody was.
thousands and thousands of miles. And how can they possibly really dampen those fires
Yeah.
when there's basically thousands and thousands of miles burning and there's no real way to attack it? So,
Right.
yeah.
Nobody there, and how long it takes them to get there and to handle that. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point in time, they just had to evacuate cities and evacuate people.
That's so sad.
Now, I'm guessing a colder climate actually, does that limit the number of wildfires there could be, or is that irrelevant?
It becomes irrelevant during the wildfire season. And that's because there is a spring season where it just warms up. And then, unfortunately, how these wildfires get started is exactly after the spring season.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what percentage of wildfires are caused by humans? And if so, how?
Yeah, I believe you would probably say that almost all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately.
That's what I read too.
Okay. So these guys come out every spring and they start the trees on fire. Or they just realize it's an opportune time to cause a fire, I guess.
Well, I think Smokey the Bear would probably have a lot to say about this, but
Maybe we'll have him as a caller next time.
right. And then we also had one of the largest fires within California being caused because there was a gender reveal party with
Yes.
fireworks.
In
Oh,
Malibu,
my-
I think, right? Wasn't that Malibu?
Yeah, that was one of them. Also in Paradise, there was also a gender reveal party. So when people get out there and just the fireworks alone. So I do have to say something about the fireworks. Probably nobody's going to like me.
We will.
I'm making friends, Mom. No, so the issue really with fireworks is that they are pretty, but they just do a major, major job in terms of pollution.
Yeah.
In terms of just threatening our environment, in terms of wildfires as well. So I will say, I'm going to say overall, we have this article. It says fireworks, yay or nay. So I'll just say nay.
I'm going to say nay with you. Nay.
Yeah. Nay to fireworks. Animals like your dogs just start going berserk. Birds go berserk. It's just every time you get the wildfires, there's just nothing really positive about them except that they look pretty. Everything else is pretty bad. So we're really looking towards drones and just doing other things that are pretty to celebrate.
Yeah, you can do beautiful drone show, right?
Yeah.
Ron and I are animal lovers, and we rescued a baby hummingbird outside of our house that had a broken wing and took it to, I'm diverting here. There's a place in Huntington Beach called the Wetlands Wildlife Center. Shout out to them. They're amazing people. And they actually have a hummingbird specialist who we ended up taking this bird to. And it was really incredible what they're doing to help the wildlife. They just rescued all these pelicans that were beaching themselves, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were starved all along the coast of California, these pelicans, and they don't know why.
Oh, interesting.
I know. But I learned from them how bad the fireworks were think about how sensitive a tiny hummingbird is. They're so little, and that sound, let alone other little birds, finches, and then you go up the thing. They said it's very stressful and very traumatic for wildlife when they hear that. Think of how loud it is for us. So I'm with you on this, Gloria, and I'm glad we brought this up because not only just from a fire safety perspective, but think about the wildlife. If your dog's freaking out, he's freaking out because he's not comfortable. He or she is not comfortable with that. It's stressful.
Absolutely.
Outside of canceling fireworks for 4th of July, what can we do to prevent these wildfires from happening?
Just being much more conscientious and really listening to really everything that they say about forest fires. Like, we really, truly can prevent forest fires. It is almost always, I think, when you look at the statistics, caused by humans. And we just need to be much, much more conscientious. Don't leave things behind. Don't start fires when they actually post signs and they say, don't make a fire here. Like, really, don't
do it. Yeah, there's a
Right?
reason. Yes.
Yeah.
So how much damage do wildfires do, and how fast do they move?
So, great question. So we do every year a World Air Quality Report, right? So with our World Air Quality Report, when it looked at Northern America, we usually always have the United States being number one in pollution. But guess what happened last year? United States was second to Canada, which had the most air pollution in Northern America. And why did Canada have, for the very first time in 7 years, because that was our 7th year of posting that report, the reason why Canada was more polluted than the United States is because of the wildfires that occurred.
Right.
It was just, they were so major that actually it even shifted what typically we'd find in the US as the major cities that were the most polluted. So even in the US, the major cities that were the most polluted usually is always in California.
Oh, yeah.
However, it was surprisingly a lot of cities within the Midwest.
Oh, that is surprising.
Yeah, and that has to do with upwinds, with the winds from the Canadian wildfires taking that plume from the Canadian wildfires and distributing it throughout the Midwest. So for some reason that doesn't have anything to do with the local pollution, we have the Midwest cities actually uprooting what would typically be the most polluted major cities in the US. And of course, Canada being the most polluted country overall for the first time.
We're glad we're not first anymore, but we don't want anyone outdoing that either, right? It's like, it's not the competition you want to be a part of.
Right. Absolutely.
More importantly, Gloria, how do wildfires impact our health? So for example, what kind of VOCs and other dangerous contaminants are present in smoke?
It's pretty nasty. So in terms of toxic pollutants, we have wildfire smoke and also pollutants from traffic, from diesel soot, really containing such high levels of black and brown carbon. They're toxic levels of black and brown carbon. So also the other problem, you combine the toxic levels of black and brown carbon with PM 2.5, you combine that with the amount of VOCs in general, the amount of volatile organic compounds that you have, and it's just a dangerous mix. It's a dangerous mix that not only affects us from a respiratory level, but it actually affects every cell of our body and can not only do damage on a respiratory level, on a cardiovascular level. The amount of people that go into the emergency room as a result of what's called an air quality episode for heart problems, very high. So it actually changes the epidemiology, and you're able to see the impact from a health perspective of cardiovascular disease just because of air quality episodes.
Wow.
But also we're able to see on another level, even certain cancers that are caused by exposure to these different toxic pollutant materials. And so what that does is also uproot what might be in terms of cancer statistics, throwing off these statistics, and then we see certain types of cancers actually increasing as a result.
Right. So going back to what you said, the PM 2.5 is the ultra fine particles, correct?
It's what's called fine particles. So ultra fine particles are probably PM1 and a little bit smaller.
Okay. And by the PM 2.5 is, what's the size point in there again?
It's PM 2.5 is 2.5 microns.
Yep.
Or smaller.
Or smaller. Okay. Or smaller.
Yeah. But when you actually look at what's really included, there's a lot of fine particulate matter that's included.
Yeah. Which is, we just did an Instagram Live, Glory, and you really educated everybody on that. So like 90% of the particles that we inhale are in that PM 2.5 category, which brings us back to, why air filtration in your home is so important, because otherwise they're just floating around and you're breathing them in. If there's not something in, you mentioned the chemicals that are in the wildfire, and formaldehyde, correct? Formaldehyde is also in the wildfire smoke.
Yes, that's one of the most common chemicals.
Wow.
Which is a carcinogen, guys, a cancer-causing chemical. It's also in our home, as we talked about before, but in smoke. So which individuals are at the most risk for health consequences if they're exposed to wildfire smoke?
Yes, so there is a category. According to the EPA, it's called sensitive groups. Okay. So these are young people, our children, the elderly, and then also there's another category of sensitive groups, which are people that have respiratory issues, have autoimmune diseases as well, and cardiovascular disease. And of course, people that might be suffering from other diseases like cancer as well.
Okay. Yeah. So
Mhm.
stay indoors. Stay
Absolutely.
indoors. Stop lighting fires and stay indoors.
Yeah, next to your air purifier, just hold it, right?
Right.
Yeah, just stand by it.
If you have to go, though, outdoors, you can wear a high quality mask to go outdoors.
Right.
And that's supposed to provide, I know we even have a mask, IQ Air has a mask, and it's FFP2, German-made mask, and it provides over 95% essentially protection when you go outdoors.
Sehr gut, wunderbar. Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
Is
Yeah.
that
Wunderbar.
more effective than an N95? Ron's going to show off his one German line.
Yes.
You're right. Thank you. Thank you. It was
He
my
has
chance.
really good pronunciation, though. I'm always like so super impressed.
Well, it's the one word he says over and over. He better have it down pat.
Right.
Okay.
If you say 20 words, consistently, hopefully you get it right. So
No, I'm kidding. He knows 2 words. He knows his
Right.
couple sentences.
Thank you, Lisa.
No, but is the N95, how does that compare to the PPF2?
Oh, yeah. So they're similar. The only difference is that our mask, you can see like gaps around most masks, but our mask has what's called a soft seal. So it has a seal, but it's not going to actually like kind of stick to your face and make these molds on your face. It's a really cool kind of soft seal that makes it so super comfortable
Okay.
to breathe in, to breathe out. And it's just a very, very comfortable way to wear an N95 quality mask.
Nice. Okay. And I'll say, guys, if you're doing home remodeling of any kind, you should be wearing this. Like, you should be wearing a mask if you're painting. I mean, you see Ron and I in our old house, like the lady across the street was pregnant and she was outside painting like a rocking chair. And I'm like, well, at least she was outside, but she didn't have a mask on. And I'm like, you're pregnant.
Oh, wow.
You got to take precautions when you're doing that. And anyone listening, please just do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true because I do watch some of those home improvement shows and it's super scary.
It's
super
Yeah.
scary. I'm seeing the demo. I'm seeing the plume. I'm seeing all of that and I'm not seeing any mask.
No mask.
No.
Listen to Lisa, please.
Chip, Joanna, get masked up. I mean, Chip is
Right.
so fun and he's
He is
smashing the
funny.
walls on his demo day. And you're like, what?
And he would have no goggles sometimes too. So even his eyes
Right.
were affected. It was crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
And then there's Tarek and Christina, who are our local celebs, right? Here in California. There was a viewer who noticed he had thyroid cancer and he also had testicular cancer. And I often wondered, was that linked to all of that exposure? Tarek, if you're listening,
Right.
please wear a mask next time you demo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting back to wildfires, I'm curious, what are some of the less obvious dangers that come from wildfires?
The less obvious ones, of course, are just these ultimately longer term exposure that can lead to a DNA change and which can lead to cancer. Also, these longer term exposures leading to cardiovascular disease. So these are the less obvious ones that people actually don't realize that ultimately are actually caused as a result of exposure to air pollution.
Right.
Wow.
Because, these particles can be absorbed directly into our bloodstream, right? And then through there, they can actually reach organs and areas of our body, which you really shed light on our Instagram Live that I think a lot of people don't realize. I mean, because we don't see them and it's easy. Ignorance, can seem like bliss, but it's not, because just because you can't see it doesn't mean it can't hurt you. And that, I think, wouldn't you say, Gloria, is one of the things that's really difficult to get people to understand about the importance of purifying your air, because it is easy to say, well, I don't see it. My home's healthy. I'm healthy.
Right. It's such a great point, Lisa, because people, you actually can't see it. So it is much, much smaller than the naked eye, and 0.1 microns alone accounts for, in sheer number, over 90% of all particulate matter that's floating through the air. The 0.1 microns or larger, it actually is so small and has such little weight that it stays in the air indefinitely. So unless you're actually using a purifier, unless you're actually filtering the air, you don't have a chance to reduce your exposure to these ultrafine particles, because they're there, they're going to stay there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of physics. And unless you're filtering out the air, you're basically the filter. Your lungs are the filter.
Yeah, you're a human filter and you don't get to change your filter.
Right. Right. Only one set of lungs.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Take good care of those. So we kind of talked about what factors and conditions could drive the wildfire risks. People camping that maybe aren't putting out their fire fully. I mean, you have arsonists. What percentage would you say is actually like intentional versus like just people not intending to cause a fire?
I think they said it was less than half.
Oh,
Basically, are actually caused by arson. Less than half.
less than half.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad because like people love to be out in nature and we think it's so beautiful and we all want to enjoy it. And then you see people litter or, start these fires and you just wonder, don't you enjoy this? Don't you enjoy this beauty? What on earth would make you want to ruin that? I never understand that. Even when I see litter, I'm like, you came to this, say, campground because you thought it was beautiful, but then you littered. So are you going to want to come back and camp in the littered spot? Because that's what you're creating.
You sound like a Girl Scout too. Have you been involved in scouting?
On my honor, I will try to serve that. I was a Girl Scout.
Me too. That's awesome. Yeah, because basically it's this leave no trace. That is a part of the scouting and scouting community. It's basically don't let anyone or anything know that you've been there, and that's clean up after yourself. But it's really tough because I think that people do it unintentionally.
Right.
I really do think it's just an accident. They are smoking in their cars. There are still people that smoke, right? And they throw their cigarette out the window. And now, because of climate change, because now there's basically a perfect storm in terms of the brush, just the pure dryness of the brush, it's much more easy to create a fire than, let's say, like 7 or 8 years ago. So just the dryness level as it increases.
So dry. Yeah.
Just due to climate change, that means you have to be, probably 2 or 3 times better at watching yourself. But we haven't gotten better. We're just the same. And throwing your ash or having your cigarette, throwing that outside your window might actually start a fire.
Yeah.
Right. I had a flashback to my childhood when I was 7 years old. I grew up in northern Indiana a while back. And I had this little friend named Stevie. And unfortunately, Stevie was a good kid, but he liked to play with matches.
Uh-oh, Stevie.
A long story short, I wasn't with Stevie this day, but there was a huge fire that took place on this grassy lot that was behind all the homes that we lived in, all the townhomes. And lo and behold, it was Stevie. I don't think he intended to burn anything as a 7-year-old.
We're not allowed to hang out with Stevie after that.
Right, yeah, I know. So
Bye, Stevie.
Stevie wasn't really hanging out much for a few months after that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he was just a naive little kid. But that, we're so vulnerable to these potential wildfires.
Well, kids, you just don't even think unless education obviously is such the root of this, right? I mean, it really comes down to knowing and being aware. And it reminded me, Ron, during COVID, I was on Nextdoor, the app of your neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about, we live in Irvine area, and they were like, oh, they have these goats. Have you heard about this, Glory?
I've heard about goats. And yes. Tell me more.
It's so cool. The city of Irvine is really good at like using non-toxic pest control, and they have like great initiatives around that. And they every year bring in goats and they put them up in the hills, and the goats graze on all the dry brush. And it actually is a natural, non-toxic way to reduce the risk of fires, basically. So they bring him, and they call the guy the goat, like he's the angel. He comes and he brings all these goats on his truck, and he sets up this fence, this big fence, like they're in a big area. And they have their goat herding dogs. The dog, he's, how they have
German
the dog.
Shepherds.
Yeah.
Right?
What's that?
They're the German Shepherds that herd the goat.
Yeah, this one was he was like a collie, a border collie. I don't remember, but so protective. We got to go and held the baby goats and meet the guy and talk to him. And no one had anything to do during COVID. So everybody was going out there to like interact and see the goats. And this dog, like he does not take his eyes off the goats the whole time. He's like staring. If one moves, he's jumping. And I said to the guy, gosh, he's like their angel. And he said, oh, he actually really is. His whole life is to protect them. You see that with sheep, right? The sheep herding dogs, but this was goat. And it's such a cool thing. And then he would like have them there until they graze that section. Then he moves the whole fence over and he goes up and down all these different hills. And that's a natural, non-toxic way to reduce fire risk. Isn't that interesting?
It's really good. I actually, when I was in Germany, because I used to live in Germany actually for almost 3 years and then moved over to Switzerland. But when I was in Germany, I actually lived with a family of the shepherd for that town. So I know exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, generally there's a shepherd who would have just a pretty large herd. And then there were 2 German shepherds that would watch over.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All of the animals.
Not to digress, Glory, but my Baris is actually pronounced Barish, and it's Hungarian, and it meant a sheep herder. So,
oh, cool.
Full circle moments.
We need goats and sheep.
And IQ Air is a German shepherd protecting all the flock of the world, right? So, full circle moment there.
That's what we try to do. Giving out air quality data to everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Okay. So we got to leave you guys, listeners. You're like, okay, what can I do? Give us some tips that we can protect ourselves both indoors and outdoors from air quality, fires, all of that.
Right. So really just watching your home in terms of what you put in your home. So unfortunately, we're the big polluters. And so just being much more conscientious about the quality of the materials, about painting, around really the use of different things like particle board. They can actually build up pretty high levels of formaldehyde within your home. So those are the things that you want to avoid. And I'm sure you talk a lot about things like that, Lisa, because I know you really take a great approach when it comes to reducing and making your home really clean and healthy overall. But these are things that people can do when you have wildfires. If you have an air purifier, you definitely want to have your air purifier with your filters ready, really recirculating the air all the time, closing windows. We'd all want to have oxygenated air, but when it's times during the wildfire, you do not want to have the additional burden of having just high concentration pollutants in your home. So definitely, if you can, seal up even gaps within doors and windows during that time.
Yeah, get that caulking out and seal all those holes. And I know it's like, we've interviewed a lot of architects and builders on the whole tightly sealed situation.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of saying, yeah, it's still good to do that. You just need a great filtration. A lot of them like the ERV or whatever.
ERVs are great.
Yeah. So you're still getting.
But not without a filter though, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Filter.
Yeah.
Filter. And if you're listening and you have not changed your HVAC filter, do it today. Let this be your whisper. You'll be shocked every time we change ours. And we change ours every 3 months, like you're supposed to, according to the EPA. Every season, guys, change that HVAC filter. You'll be shocked at what it's collecting. And then in addition, of course, your air purifier, your portable air purifiers that you have in your house, your IQ Air, hopefully. You want to be changing that filter regularly. And I know we talked about this too, Glory. You do your pre-filter. Tell us the times that you would be changing these filters.
Sure. So your pre-filter is changed about every 10 to 12 months.
Okay.
Your gas and odor filter, the V5 cell, is changed every 18 months. The hyper HEPA filter is changed once every 4 years.
Once every 4 years. Okay.
So lasts a super long time.
Yeah. And you said it's about 100 and how much a year?
It's about $120 a year.
$120 a year, guys. That's an investment in your health. You buy vitamins, you have a gym membership. This is a health. This goes in your health category. Your filters. Don't think like, oh, it's expensive. It's your health. It's an investment in your health.
And if you don't have the filters, then you are the filter. And that's the problem.
You're the walking human filter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about wildfires, is it really the gas filter that's really working hard, or is the HEPA filter taking stuff out too?
It's going to mainly be the HEPA filter that's working extra hard.
Oh, the HEPA. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be mainly the HEPA filter. All of the filters, of course, there's gas and odor, but boy, the amount of PM 2.5, the amount of black carbon and brown carbon is
off the chart.
Scary.
You'll see it when you replace that filter, right? You'll probably see it. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you'll see the color has changed. So our filters are white. So when you not going to be white, it's going to be black and it's going to be brown when you're changing the filter. And all of that, what you see is what you're not breathing.
Right. That's insane because, when you look at that, you're like, that would have otherwise gone in somebody's lungs in this household, right? If it wasn't being captured. Seeing is believing. Wow. Well, this is exciting. Really great. Glory, thank you so much for helping us cover such an important topic. And I noticed on your site, you guys have a wildfire checklist, which I thought was so amazing. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Remember, this doesn't matter where you live. If you think you're not affected, you still can be because of the drifting of the air and all of that, as Glory mentioned.
Absolutely. And to learn more about IQ Air, please visit iqair.com. And as always, head to healthyhomehacks.com for all the links in the show notes. And be sure to subscribe to this show so you don't miss another episode, and get ready to up-level your health. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Glory. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Glory.
This episode of the Healthy Home Hacks podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more healthy living strategies and tactics to help you create the healthy home you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.